Hey everyone, so welcome to another video, and today I want to talk to you about roles, capabilities, and all the other aspects when it comes to, let's say, titles in user experience and experience design in general. It could be something as crazy as UX developer, UX research, service designer, customer experience designer, a generalist UX designer, a UX unicorn even in startup. Most of these have underlying job descriptions who are identical. So if you look at it, it's same keywords, same exact definitions, it's still design thinking applied to, let's say, experience design. It's just the actual, slot you fit in and the role and the hat you wear. I identified 14 different roles. In reality, overlap a lot. Some of these kind of are duplicates. Sometimes you wear, 5 hats instead of 1. Sometimes you won't wear all of them, sometimes none, and you have to do someone else's job. But the idea here is that these are kind of like a typical archetypes per se in experience design world. So let's dive right into that. One is UX or experience designer, sometimes shorted as UX or XD, and this is where we get started. In short, it's a generalist role. You discover, you ideate, you prototype, you test, and then you deliver. And you can do it all basically, and you're expected to do it all. So next we have customer experience designer, which is usually shortened, and you might spot it as CX. Is a result of what happens when you apply experience design principles to measuring, defining, and crafting customer journeys. So for example, any touch point a customer goes through to interact with a brand. Last biggie is a service designer. Usually that is expressed as SD, and it's similar to what, for example, the customer experience designer does, but service designer would look at the service as a whole, as an ecosystem view through kind of like a macro lens. We overview every touch point of a service with artifacts, people involved, and so forth, and come up with better ways to process excellence. Service designer, customer experience designer, you kind of in those, it's more of like a industrial disciplines rather than roles, because you can also go deeper and split those aspects into different titles. So one of them would be user researcher, who uses empathy to discover, synthesize, validate, and inform further UX process. And needless to say, experience design without research is not real experience design. It becomes like a brochure design. The researchers is kind of like at the core of any empathy-based discovery. Next, we have UX Strategist. It's been on the market for quite a while, but only recently kind of picked up the speed, and we see more demand in that. And strategists are our advocate for business usually. Sometimes this role is taken by business analysts unofficially, but it really depends on what organization you're a part of. So for example, these folk tend to dive into value innovation, research, and how business can outperform our competition using proper UX. Then we have something similar, which is content strategist, not to be mixed with UX strategist, because content strategist is more of a marketing hero 2.0. It's a marketing person who's using design thinking as a base. They plan, craft, deliver, and analyze how content is digested by their user. From personal experience, these folk are invaluable in, for example, e-commerce and social media driven projects and anything what has to do with that. And next we have copywriter. So this is a person who writes copy, but good one too. The key difference between, regular copywriter and UX one is that UX copywriters go deeper into empathy and writing tailored messages rather than good copy that would work for any average person. Next we have UI designer, and UI designer shows as a more artistic side to experience design. So they're focusing on crafting UI patterns that are pixel perfect, adaptive, and highest of fidelity imaginable. This role is also like a good segue to the next one, which is graphic or visual designer. You're probably gonna ask, why do you separate them? And the only reason is because there are still organizations which, as part of their, let's say, customer experience, they need print-based communications, and they have to be good. They have to be, for example, part of the experience. So let's say if you have service design and you're some sort of government organization, you might still need to send printouts because that's what your older generation users prefer, and they build more trust. So someone has to design that. And that's where, for example, we would split UI design with graphic design, because graphic designers would take care of that. And needless to say, such firms usually expect visuals and graphic designers to pick up the slack and do UI work as well. So these are kind of like two hats to wear. Next is product designer, and that's a good segue as well because that's a combination of UX and UI. So it's usually shortened as UX/UI, and this is where I personally started, for example, and then later transitioned into hardcore UX role right now. And people in this role craft product designs with good understanding of underlying optimal experiences. They're expected to do research, ideation, etc. Perhaps just in a little bit less detail and less extent. And then next we have information architect, sometimes used as a system designer title. As the title says, this is a person who brings, more architectural approach and more systematic approach to putting things in their boxes, where taxonomy, systems management, or for example, simple website structure is of a paramount importance. So, the simplest delivery could be a sitemap, and the most complex delivery could be a systems library or systems architecture. So this is a person who would take care of that. And next we have interaction designer, and sometimes information architect and interaction designer are put into one box, but I like to separate those because I think it's totally two different things. Because interaction designer is someone who considers interactions between a user and a product, be it physical or digital. We have, consider typical UX findings and match those with aesthetics, motion, sound, space, and other attributes and artifacts. And if you ever prototype the solution, you probably consider all of those, and you apply the interaction design thinking. And another one is UX engineer. This is a question mark. There's usability engineer, sometimes are UX developers, sometimes they're used interchangeably. However, I binned all those and decided just to stick to UX engineer because I think it's a new type of breed in the industry. And this is a role for like a techie. So think of someone who is front-end developer who also knows UX and how to apply those principles to make better tech decisions. Now, this is a role sometimes, labeled as UX developer, as I said before, but all it really is, and probably some people are actually going to hate me on this, but it's an interaction designer who knows how to code. So if you use Framer, you're probably a UX engineer in my world. And finally, if you're really proficient with all of these, you're probably a UX unicorn. And UX unicorn is a bit stale term in the industry. However, that's what we used to call UX generalist, now UX designer. But since we have such a big landscape of different roles, UX designers are expected to pick up a lot of slack and a lot of different responsibilities. So I guess you could label those interchangeably depending on what's expected of you. So did I miss any of those titles or roles? Do you think there's anything else you would add to this list? Do you think I kind of misinterpreted anything, or you have from your experience it's totally different? Then leave a comment below, and if you like this video, give an actual like, hit that subscribe button, share with your friend, show some love, and thanks a lot for watching this.